Hey folks, it's Rob, and welcome back. This is our 12th part in our Dungeons and Dragons red box set item on the Dungeon Master's Rulebook. Um, Forgive me, this is a second pass on this take because unfortunately the first time around the audio did not get secured, so I'm going to have to, despite the fact that I did read all the way through to Rat over here, we're going to have to start over on Minotaur. And that's fine. Hopefully, I'll come up with even better takes and asides. Who knows? But you don't change anything in your setup and use the same software, and you decline the update on OBS, and what happens? It goes, "Hey, you don't have a microphone connected." Sure. Why would you have the microphone connected that you've had connected to the system the entire time and have used for every single one of these videos? Why would you want that input when you could have nothing? But I digress. Uh, so we were continuing through the monsters. We're in M here. We did Medusa last time, and we're up to Minotaur, where we can see one of our very few pieces of art here in the monster section. And again, I feel like of the things that need art, the Minotaur actually probably didn't need art, right? As much as some other things. Now, admittedly, of the things I'm about to read, probably it's not that relevant, but like like an ochre jelly, I guess, is just a blob, really. But like Owlbear really could have used art back at a time when nobody really knew what an owlbear looked like, really, other than it's a bear with an owl head, right? Um, it's 1983. You had a depiction of a minotaur to go to. This is a classical Greek mythological creature. Um, and it's not to say this is a bad monster either. It's actually quite a good monster, quite a good little big bad to kind of throw at your party after they've gained a level, and you're like needing to finish something off on the floor, right? Let's get into it. Minotaur, armor class 6, hit dice 6. So it's a little beefy in the hit points potentially, because that's 6 to 48 hit points. Move 120 by 40, so like a human. The attacks are one gore slash one bite or by one weapon. Now, damage for the gore and a bite are a d6, or the weapon is by weapon type plus 2. Number appearing 1 to 6 or 1 to 8 in a Minotaur layer, although, I mean, honestly, I think I consider a Minotaur. It'd be a layer inside the maze or the labyrinth that you happen to have, or, wherever you happen to have the Minotaur. Save as fighter 6, quite a good save. Morale 12, basically doesn't break morale. Treasure type C, alignment chaotic, XP value 275, right? Solid, strong monster, but its attack economy is basically one attack, right? Unless you're going to go with the gore bite thing. But I think it's kind of cooler for them to have a weapon, right? Um, a minotaur is a large man with the head of a bull. It is larger than human size and eats humans. A minotaur will always attack anything its size or smaller and will pursue as long as its prey is in sight. Minotaurs are semi intelligent and use some weapons, preferring a spear, club, or axe. When using weapons, Minotaurs gain +2 to damage rolls due to their strength. If a Minotaur uses a weapon, it may not gore or bite. Minotaurs usually live in tunnels or mazes. Now, I do think spears and clubs and axes are quite appropriate, but otherwise maybe a two-handed kind of weapon. Uh, it's not strange to go from spear to polearm, for example. Um, but they will use or really whatever weapon you want to give them. I'd avoid ranged complex weapons, like probably not into crossbows, right? Again, a good solid monster to use as like, a floor boss, right? And maybe don't throw 6 of them at a low level party, but yeah, one Minotaur, some 2, 3 level party members. I think you got a thing going on. It's 2 high hit die for sleep, by the way, right? Maybe you could charm it. Hmm. Mule. Mule. This is not really a monster, a mule. uh, armor class 7, hit die 2, move 120 by 40, attacks 1 kick or 1 bite, damage 1 to 4 or 1 to 3. The kick is a D4, bite is a half D3, a D6. You know, number appearing 1 to 2 or 2 to 12 in a mule lair, whatever that might be. I would say maybe a caravan. um, mules mules don't breed. Mules are the sterile offspring of horses and donkeys. And you probably have never encountered a mule in person in the world as it is right now. Mules used to be terribly common. Uh, Mules were bred for their specific capabilities and traits that are kind of a hybrid between a donkey and a horse. And because those two creatures are fairly close genetically, they can interbreed, but their spawn is sterile. So obviously you can do what you want in your mythology of your world. It's your game. So if you want to have mules as a true breeding kind of creature, go ahead, do that. Not saying Rob's not here to tell you what to do, but basically in the world we used to have with a lot of horses and donkeys and things like that in it, because before the motor car really took over, mules were useful for moving a lot of heavy items when you couldn't use a cart, right? And I'll get on with it. Save as normal man, morale 8, treasure type nil, alignment neutral, XP value 20. These are an animal, right? Uh, a mule is a crossbreed between a horse and a donkey. Yeah, there it is. Mules are stubborn, and if bothered or excited, they may either bite or kick. There is a reason we say stubborn is a mule, right? Mules may be taken into dungeons if allowed by the DM. A mule can carry a normal load of 3,000 coins or 6,000 coins at most, with its move reduced to 60 feet per turn, half move. Mules cannot be trained to attack, but will fight in their own defense. If encountered alone in a dungeon, the mules may belong to an NPC party nearby. Now, they may have been scared off by the monster attack or released by the party while they try to fend off the monster. Maybe the party was defeated by the monsters and these mules are just what's left. Or maybe they have fought off the monster but haven't recovered their mules. The mules will have the party's supplies, right? And possibly other treasure that they've already acquired and have kind of packed away for taking back to the surface. That could be a decent alignment check or, moral conundrum for your party of like what to do with these mules we found and the stuff that's on them. Just putting that out there as an idea. Neanderthal, parentheses, caveman. Armor class 8, hit die 2, move 120 by 40. They attack by weapon. Their damage is weapon plus 1. Number appearing 1 to 10 or 10 to 40 at the Neanderthal lair. Save as fighter 2, morale 7, treasure type C, alignment lawful. Unusual to see that in the monster book here. XP value 20. Neanderthals, also known as cavemen, have squat bodies with large bones and powerful muscles. Their faces have ape-like features, including large brows above the eyes. Neanderthals live in family groups in caves and caverns. They usually attack with thrown spears and use stone axes, clubs, or stone hammers in hand-to-hand combat. Notice they don't stat out the weapons for that type, but basically I would consider these to be kind of D6 weapons. But they'll be D6 plus 1 in the hand of the Neanderthals, right? Um, Neanderthal leaders are almost a separate race, much larger than the average Neanderthal. These leaders have 6 hit dice and are 10 feet tall. There will be 10 to 4 Neanderthals in the lair with 2 leaders, one male and one female. Neanderthals often hunt cave bears and keep white apes as pets. They are friendly towards dwarves and gnomes, but hate goblins and kobolds and will attack ogres on sight. Neanderthals are shy and will avoid humans, but are not usually hostile unless they are attacked. This again fits into that Lost World feel of the known world / Mystara setting of these box sets, and I'm into that. Obviously, you've seen depictions of cavemen in literature and media. These are lawful in this case. So they are, you know, the friendly locals here in your Lost World underworld setting. And they don't want to be necessarily bothered by the party, but maybe they can be convinced, right? They probably don't speak common. It's kind of weird how the uber Neanderthals are like 10 feet tall and have 6 hit dice, but that's having done this read through once already. I know that's actually going to relate to the ogre when we get to them over here. Um, so stay tuned for that. Next up, we have normal human, armor class 9, 1 hit die. Now, like a magic user, has a D4 hit points as rules is written here. An average human has a D8, basically. Move 120 by 40, attack by weapon. It's a weapon for damage. Number appearing 1 to 4 as a group or 1 to 50 in a normal human lair. Look around your normal human lair and how many people are in your place. Yeah. Probably mean like a village, by and large, right? Or a hamlet, something, right? Save as normal human, morale 6. Treasure type P/U, so that's P on the person, U at their lair. Alignment any, XP value 5, right? They're normal humans. They can be motivated in whatever way you see fit. A normal human is a game term for a human who does not seek adventure. That's an important thing to distinguish here, because that is really a primary difference between like your party and most other people they encounter. Most other people they encounter will not be people who seek adventure, be they humans, elves, dwarves, etc. Treat the other, the elves and dwarves as elf and dwarf in the entry previously here, but a normal human will be like shopkeepers, innkeepers, stable hands, random people in the street, etc. Right? We already had brigand for if you need to have some thieves, but these are just the regular. Farmer John is a normal human, right? He's not interested in going down into dungeons. That's the folly of weirdos like your players. So, a normal human does not have a class. The hit points should be selected according to the human's age, health, and profession. For example, a blacksmith could have 8 hit points, but a young child or sickly beggar might have only 1 hit point. Most humans are normal humans, though people with certain professions, such as a merchant, soldier, lord, scout, and so forth, help in some adventures. As soon as a human gets experience points through an adventure, that person must choose a character class. Some typical normal humans are peasants, children, housewives, workers, artists, villagers, townspeople, slaves, fishermen, and scholars. Basically, they can be whatever you want. I know this has been rich, fertile ground in Dragon Magazine, back that wonderful publication that used to exist, for all kinds of specialty NPCs, and I think there's probably still a thriving trade in that in supplements nowadays. Um, Certainly, you can create your own specialized NPCs in any way you want. In fact, we're about to do an NPC party here, but you don't need. Oh, excuse me. I am so sorry. You don't need full out stats for just like every Joe, Bob, and Tamara the party's going to run into, right? Um, but if you wanted to stat out some things, and a fine use for all those characters you keep rolling up but don't actually play because you're the DM, is the NPC party. Armor class by and get ready for the ride here of these stats, because honestly this is going to be a lot of question marks. Armor class by NPC class. Hit dice, variable, move, variable, attacks, weapons, and spells, damage 1 to 6 or weapons and spell effects, number appearing 5 to 8 or 5 to 8 in the NPC party lair, whatever the heck that would be. I guess that's like an inn. Save as NPC class and level, morale 8, treasure type U and V, and that is on the party, alignment any, XP value variable. And just to get back over here to the treasure table, U and V are down here at the bottom of the individual chart. So that's 10% chance of 1 to 100 copper. You got a percentage chance of some silver here under both of them. And you would roll both because it's U and V. Chance of 5% chance of some electrum, some chances here of gold, chance of platinum, no chance of gems, but chance of jewelry, and even chance of magic items. And I would suggest that if the party has magic items, they should employ them, if reasonable, right? But the point of this is not to create a combat encounter for your party per se. So, an NPC party is any group of non-player characters. Each NPC may be of any class, level, and alignment. All rules for player characters apply to NPCs. An NPC party may be created in great detail before a game, and I would highly suggest that the characters are at least skeleton framed out before you even begin to use this in an adventure. If you think there's the possibility of you having the party run into an NPC party, have something for them, right? Already made. Don't try to make this up on the fly. Most parties, whether NPCs or PCs, will not want to fight other parties, preferring easier monsters to challenge. At least that was the original idea, right? Loot and treasure is really where the XP is, and that's where your players' motivations should be. And that theoretically should be mirrored in the NPC party, right? The DM may wish to avoid the large, complicated battle which would occur between two parties. To avoid combat, the DM may use the following chart to determine the actions of the NPC party, which is down here. For ease of play, the DM may give the NPC party the same number of members as the PC party, plus 1 to 4 fighters to discourage PC ideas of attack. Similar classes and equipment may be assumed if the NPCs are nearly the same level of experience as the player characters. So, we have our 2d6 reaction roll here. In a 2 to 5, the NPC party will depart in anger. On a 6 to 8, they will negotiate with the party, say, like, they're like, say, we've been down here for a while. Do you happen to have any like jerky or a wineskin you'd be happy to prepare to spare? Right. 9 to 12, offer to buy or sell information, which has an asterisk, which we get into right here. The NPCs may offer to buy information about the dungeon for 10 to 500 gold pieces, or to sell similar information for the same price range. Typical information could be monsters seen, traps found, stairs up or down, or other features. The DM should decide on a price offered by the NPCs considering the value of the information sold. So this can be an excellent money sink for like getting money out of your party members' hands. Because that is a thing. Um, in the course of play, of course, your adventurers are going to acquire treasure and money, right? And that money can be is going to be way generally above what like the commoners have in the environment. And yeah, you might be able to coerce some of that out of their hands with a tax man. You might be able to set up a shop where they're going to buy some things that you're prepared for them to buy. But generally, they're going to be buying advantages if they're buying things, right? You know, better equipment. If you have a magic shop in your setting, that's magic items you're handing out to the party in exchange for cash. Um, Now, healing potions aren't too destabilizing, but like if you were to start handing out enchanted items, that could be. So, my point is giving them the prospect of information of like, hey, we're on our, the NPC party's like, we're on our way back up to the surface, but we've been all over level 2. We could sell you a map. Would you be interested? And you could do that, right? And as long as it doesn't even need to be completely accurate, just has to be accurate enough that your party doesn't feel ripped off when they get these offers, right? Um, Monsters move around, so sometimes, you know, it's okay for it to have some inaccuracies, but like say like the floor layout is fine, right? Up to you, right? Really is up to you. But like that is an excellent use of the NPC party. Another use I like is to basically kind of set the timer on hooks you throw out, right? You put out there that like Farmer Bugfoot needs the rats taken care of in his threshing mill, and the party's like, we're not interested. But then they hear about the Whitefoot Company took care of it. you know, um, or like, they took care of the goblins that were threatening the southern road, right? Maybe that indicates to the party that sometimes there's other people acting. Maybe these people, the Whitefoot Company, could be less nice than your party, right? Maybe lots of possibilities. Please explore them. You're a DM. Ochre Jelly. Armor class 8. Again, this is one of those things that, I mean, of the like slimes and oozes and things like that, ochre jelly's not the worst thing, but it's again not terribly nice thing to throw at your party. Armor class 8, hit dice 5 asterisk, move 30 feet by 10. It's not fast moving. You can get away from it. Attacks 1, but that attack is 2 to 12 damage. 1 will appear, none in a lair. That doesn't have a lair functionally, and it doesn't matter because there's, treasure type is nil. Morale is 12. It'll save as a fighter 3. Basically, you can't break morale. It's a little magic resistant. It's neutral in alignment. It is an unintelligent, not even animal, basically. It's like a, well, I think it's like described as an amoeba. We'll get into that. XP value 300. Keep that in mind for the difficulty here. And ochre jelly is an ochre colored, kind of orangey brown, giant amoeba which can only be harmed by fire or cold. It can seep through small cracks and destroy wood, leather, and cloth in one round, but cannot eat through metal or stone. Attacks with weapons or lightning merely make 2 to 5 smaller 2-hit dice ochre jellies. A normal ochre jelly does 2 to 12 points of damage per round to exposed flesh. The smaller ochre jellies inflict only half that damage. and which can be a way of managing an ochre jelly, because really, you're not going to have cold damage first off. This party of 1 to 3 level party members isn't going to have access to cold damage unless you have given it to them. But what they will have is fire. They will have torches, lamp oil, lanterns, and, they can use that against the ochre jelly. Now, the main intact ochre jelly is 5 hit dice. So that is 5 to 40 hit points. But if they break up the jelly, each jelly's component, and if you want to be generous, you don't need to really do much for there, but that's basically a d4 plus 1 number of component jellies. Each one is only 2 hit die. So that is, 2 to 16 hit points. And the damage they do is reduced to half, so it's only a d6. That's actually survivable for an opponent who's actually been touched by a jelly. But basically, if you can break them up a bit, you can inflict fire damage on them in a much more distributed way and just wipe out the whole thing at that point. But like, to do fire damage at range means throwing, like, your oil flasks and setting things on fire. And you can do all kinds of nasty tricks with ochre jellies because, like, they don't eat through metal or stone. So, like, they find a cauldron and inside is an ochre jelly. These kind of monsters are the delight of a more mischievous bent DM. But, try to make risks equal rewards, or make it obvious that the danger is present so that the party isn't necessarily killed by just basically an orangey brown blob. Speaking of orangey brown blobs, we have ogres. Armor class 5, hit dice 4 plus 1. So you roll 48 and you add 1 hit point, not each hit die gets an extra hit point. Sorry about touching the mic there. Move 90 by 30, attacks by 1 club, right? The damage is by weapon plus 2, and I'd say it's like a D6 club, but maybe you want to say it's a gigantic club, some kind of like maul, and you'll want to roll the dice damage differently. Your campaign and your judgment, try to be fairly consistent. Number appearing 1 to 6 or 2 to 12 in ogre lair, which, they could be a cave. Save as fighter 4, morale 10. They're tough. Treasure type S times 10 on the ogre, and in their lair S times 100 plus C. So we're gonna, we'll come. Their alignment is chaotic and XP value is 125. I'm just gonna run over here. S is this fourth one on here, and so nothing on this upper chart, but on the lower chart, basically that is 2 to 8 gold per individual, and that is actually times 10 or times 100, and it's not a chance. It's just you get 2 to 8 gold, and that's at the lair. And then of course we have a C, and that's one of these, right? Despite the prominence of ogres, you only have a small paragraph right here. Ogres are huge, fearsome, human-like creatures, usually 8 to 10 feet tall. They wear animal skins for clothes and often live in caves. When encountered outside their lair, the group will be carrying 100 to 600 gold pieces in large sacks. Ogres hate Neanderthals and will attack them on sight. And you might recall, a lot of this sounds quite familiar to the caveman, the Neanderthal over here. So there's this like opposition dichotomy, yin-yang of ogre to Neanderthal that you can play with if you want to. I personally rarely do that, really. Ogres tend to be like a kind of mercurial mercenary backbone to another group of demihumans, like orcs or hobgoblins, right? They have maybe the goblins managed to bribe one ogre, right, to kind of beef up things for their side. And ogres, while not very smart in their usual depiction, are quite bribable in the right situation. And they like, they like the easy life when they're not having to beat up on things, but they will beat up on things. So, they usually get bought off by like getting good treatment by the people who are paying for them, right? They get good hunks of meat, they get treasure, they get deference by the other members of the tribe, right? But when it comes time, the ogre will be right there in front bashing heads. Um, Orc. Well, orcs are popular nowadays, and back in the time of this is after AD&D First Edition. So orcs there used to be half orc as a race in the AD&D. There's no such thing here in this edition of the game. Orcs are monsters in this game, and they are like player character orcs exist in a certain gazetteer for the Broken Lands and not really anywhere else. Um, I think there were some settled orcs in Alfheim as well. Uh, but really, and again, this is well before any Lord of the Rings movie came out, which showed you a lot of dog like orcs. These are going to be generally, well, I always thought of them as pig like, but like the description will say, like, look like a combination of animal and man, right? Um, which is kind of you see that in some anime, honestly, like kobolds and orcs being like that. Um, armor class 6, hit dice 1, move 120 by 40, like like a human. Attack by weapon, it's damage by weapon. Number appearing in a general encounter will be 2 to 8 orcs, which 2d4, or 10 to 60 in a layer. Save as fighter 1, morale 8 or 6 as below. That's the old leader thing. Treasure type P on their person and D in their lair. I believe treasure type P was not terribly impressive. It is, yes, 3 to 24 pieces of copper per individual. Alignment chaotic, XP value 10. So, you want to step up from your kobold or goblin, you can move to orc pretty readily. Um, they don't have damage penalties per se in a regular underground encounter, right? They're good, like, goons to use for various purposes. They are fairly plentiful for when you want to use them. We do get a fair bit of orc description here, so let's do that. An orc is an ugly human like creature and looks like a combination of animal and man. Orcs are nocturnal omnivores and prefer to live underground. When fighting in daylight, they have a penalty of -1 on their hit rolls. Orcs have bad tempers and do not like other living things. One member of each group of orcs is a leader with 8 hit points who gains a +1 bonus on damage rolls. If this leader is killed, the morale of the group becomes 6 instead of 8. Orcs are afraid of anything larger or stronger than they are, but may be forced to fight by their leaders. Orcs are often used for armies by chaotic leaders, both humans and monsters. They prefer swords, spears, axes, and clubs for weapons. They will not use mechanical weapons such as catapults, and only their leaders understand how to operate such devices. So, while I mean, a catapult's like a battlefield kind of thing and not really in the scope of this game, uh, a crossbow is. And so they won't be using those, right? But they could use a bow. That's not really considered mechanical, even though I mean, that's the whole argument right there. My engineering head says, like, well, you got a, leverage principle, pulley principle. Could very well be quite mechanical. What do you think a bow is? It's a machine. But, that aside, there are many different tribes of orcs. Each tribe has as many female orcs as males, and 2 children, whelps, for each 2 adults. The leader of an orc tribe is a chieftain with 15 hit points who attacks it as a 4 hit die monster and gains +2 on damage rolls. For every 20 orcs in a tribe, there may be an ogre with them, 1 in 6 chance. If the D&D expert rules are used, there is a 1 in 10 chance of a troll living in the lair as well, which trolls are not in this edition of the game. They are in the expert set, which is probably for the best. You don't need to throw regenerating monsters at a low-level party, but if a party knows how to deal with a troll, I don't think it's really all that much more difficult than a well-used ogre, but barring the regeneration problem. But it's been a moment since I've read the stats on a troll, so don't hold me to it. Owlbear. We got into that a little earlier. They show up in the relatively popular and well-done D&D movie that came out like a year or 2 ago. Took my wife to it because she wanted to go. Actually, I wasn't going to make her go. I wasn't really thinking of going because I'm like, oh, I'll wait till it comes on at home. But she wanted to go, so we went, and she had an excellent time. And owlbears definitely feature quite prominently in that. Also, the recent Baldur's Gate 3 game, which again I cannot disagree with. It's actually an excellent game, and not all the time can you play a proper tabletop role-playing game. Sometimes you just want to play now, right? And computer games are great for that. Owlbear, armor class 5, hit dice 5, move 120 by 40, attacks 2 claws and a bite. Now the claws are a d8 each and the bite is a d8. There's also a special attack down in here. Number appearing 1 to 4 and 1 to 4 in a lair. Like in the Baldur's Gate game, you encounter the owlbear in a lair and it has a cub, right? So you could have some cubs with the owlbear. Maybe they have lesser hit points, right? Save is fighter 3, morale 9, treasure type C in the lair. They are neutral because they're kind of animals. XP value 175. An owlbear is a huge bear-like creature with the head of a giant owl. It stands 8 foot tall and weighs 15,000 coin, which is like 1,500 pounds, which is like 500 pounds shy of a ton. So, kind of like half to a third of a modern car. If both its paws hit one opponent in one round, the owlbear hugs for an additional 2 to 16 points of damage. Owlbears have nasty tempers and are usually hungry, preferring meat. They are commonly found underground in dense forests. And again, this could be a good boss monster for the party to encounter. Wouldn't throw a lot of owlbears at the party at once when they're still in the 1 to 3 level range, but the party as a whole might be able to handle it. And finally, Pixie. Pixies are armor class 3, hit dice 1 and 3 asterisks. On the ground, they move 90 by 30, and flying 180 by 60. They attack by 1 dagger, which does a d4. Number appearing will be 2 to 8 in a general encounter, or 10 to 40 in their lair. Save as, I guess it would be like a grove in there for their lair. Save as elf 1, morale 7. They're not the most hardy of folk. Treasure type R plus S, right? Alignment neutral, XP value 19. Because, 20 would be too round, I suppose. Pixies are small human-like creatures with insect-like wings. Well, you've probably seen Tinkerbell, right? The major company that owns everything in the universe that isn't Google has a mascot that isn't a rodent that they use in front of their castle, right? And or maybe you've seen Fern Gully. That's also a decent depiction of a fey creature, you know. Um, they are distantly related to elves, but are only 1 to 2 feet tall. They are invisible unless they want to be seen or unless magically detected. Unlike the effects of the invisibility spell, pixies can attack and remain invisible, and they always gain surprise when doing so. They may not be attacked in the first round of combat, but after that, their attackers will see shadows and movements in the air and may attack the pixies with a -4 penalty on hit rolls. So that's basically a blind attack. So that turns that 3 into a net functional -1 AC, which for your starting player level players is going to be natural 20, unless they have other modifiers. So, okay, kind of hard to fight then, right? Their small insect like wings can only support pixies for 3 turns, and they must rest 1 full turn after flying. So they can fly for 30 minutes, and then they have to rest for 10. I would also say if the party can detect invisibility, all that negative invisible ability fighting is negated. You'll just have to deal with the fact that they're highly agile magical creatures. Um, why you need to exterminate the pixies? I don't think it's a terribly smart idea, but maybe the party's had enough of pixie games and decides the ill-advised approach of trying to fight them. Uh, I personally would have them play just a further nasty trick on somebody and then leave because the party doesn't want to play their games, right? Um, but you do you. Obviously, it's your game and your campaign, right? That's going to be it for there because we're at time and it's because it's 40 minutes. But also, yeah, well, that brings us from P to R, right? Directly to R. We'll join that next time with the thrilling adventure reading of Rats. But thank you very much for watching and listening to me. I'm sorry this video is late today. I appreciate your feedback and comments. If you have anything to say, please say it below. Your likes and subscriptions are also incredibly welcome and helpful to the channel. Have a great day, everybody. Goodbye.